Now, they say it's strictly virtual. It's really not that big a deal because you're not actually losing cash, as you understand it. But have you looked into this whole thing about Bitcoins? Well, let me tell you what we've got in front of us right now. This is a story out of Tokyo that went down today. A major Bitcoin exchange has gone bust after secretly racking up catastrophic losses, other virtual currency companies are saying. A potentially fatal blow for the exotic new form of money. The website of Tokyo-based Mt. Gox, G-O-X, was returning a blank page today. The disappearance of the site follows the resignation Sunday of Mt. Gox CEO Mark Karpeles from the board of the Bitcoin Foundation. Now, that is a group of legitimacy for the currency and a withdrawal ban imposed at the exchange earlier this month. Now, what does this mean? What happened to Bitcoin today? What is Bitcoin? What are the ramifications beyond Bitcoin collectors? And is there a danger that Bitcoin bonanza is going, as they say, bust? Mike Yeung is an SFU arts and social science student who founded the Simon Fraser Bitcoin Club. He's been on our program before, and I remember saying to him, how do you know that there's any kind of security behind this? How do you know this thing is just not going to go south? Because it's not backed by gold in a bank. It's not backed by any kind of a major corporation. It's individuals worldwide who want to exchange what they've got for somebody else's stuff, and they use these things called Bitcoins. And that's kind of my understanding as to how it works. But anyway, let's get Mike up and see what he's got to say about the situation that's happened in Japan. So, Mike, good of you to take time out of your day.
Not a problem.
How are your studies going, by the way?
Excellent.
How's your Bitcoin reserve?
My Bitcoins are exactly what I put in a few years ago. I actually haven't had the need to cash them out or anything, so they are as they are. How
much have you actually got in Bitcoin as we speak?
Some, but not really a sizable amount compared to some other people. So
you're not talking tens of thousands of dollars. You're just talking stuff that you could use in exchange for something else that somebody may have. Has the value of your Bitcoin gone down at this stage because of the Mt. Gox issue?
Yeah, definitely. The value of whatever Bitcoins I have definitely went down in the past few weeks because of Gox. Okay,
back up for us a little bit here. Give us the background on this story and what you think has happened here, and is it recoverable?
I think it definitely is recoverable. The situation at Gox is that they had some accounting practices and also some security issues that weren't up to date, and they failed to live up to the standard of being a professional Bitcoin exchange. So because of that, a lot of people weren't able to withdraw their Bitcoins because the company is actually insolvent at the moment. They don't actually have the Bitcoins necessary to cover all the withdrawals. So because of that, the price went down quite a bit in the last few weeks.
One of the things that we know about this is that according to the information we have in their accounting system and the root cause of the apparent sudden disappearance, almost 800,000 virtual Bitcoins. Now, that apparently has translated using dollar terms into hundreds of millions of dollars worth of losses. Can you tell me where some of these losses were incurred and in what parts of the world where it hit big time?
I think a lot of the users in the last few years that use Gox were mostly American, so there's a lot of American users.
Yes.
And in terms of where it was incurred, well, a lot of people just ending up buying Bitcoins on that exchange, but they never withdraw those Bitcoins out. So now when it comes time to withdraw them, the exchange actually don't have those Bitcoins for them. So yeah, I think a lot of people will be out of quite a bit of money as a result.
Prominent members of the Bitcoin community, including San Francisco-based wallet service Coinbase and Chinese exchange BTC China, have sought to shore up the confidence in the currency by saying that Mt. Gox's collapse was an isolated case of mismanagement, but they said it had abused users' trust but did not offer details on how that happened. Do you have any details?
I actually read an article yesterday on gigaohm.com that showed a leak, an internal document leak from Gox, and it seems that they were quite aware of the issues that they've been having for a very long time. They ended up mismanaging the Bitcoins that came in, either by not securing it and allowing hackers to come in and take them away, or they've actually miscounted the Bitcoins that came in. They overcounted the amount. So they were well aware of the issue for like a number of years, but they never really spent any time or money to resolve it.
Okay, now explain to the listener that has just tuned in, and for my information as well, the basic fundamentals behind Bitcoins and why people have got involved in this.
The fundamental of Bitcoin is that it allows people to basically email money from one another without a third party in between. So it allows for a frictionless transfer of wealth anywhere in the world between any two parties. And the key to this is that the currency that exists in the Bitcoin system is limited. It's finite, so that it's only limited to 21 million. So it works in counter to how money is created in national currencies.
All right, let's set up a scenario here, and let's do okay. I'm a guy that has some wealth in let's say it's a piece of property, okay?
Okay.
And I get in touch with you, and I say, Mike, my property is worth let's say $500,000, and I'd like to exchange this for whatever you have that may be in a balance, and your stuff is worth maybe $600,000, and I'll give you my Bitcoin for $500,000, and you give me $500,000's worth, and I'll send you a check for $100,000 or $100,000 equivalent in Bitcoin. Is that a transaction that is workable?
It's totally workable. So you're looking for me to buy your $500,000 property in Bitcoin?
Yeah, in Bitcoin. How would you do that? I mean, this is not a currency that goes to the bank. The bank never sees this. It's strictly you and I on Bitcoin. How does it work?
Well, you and I would have to go about agreeing on an exchange rate. So once we find a price per Bitcoin that we can agree on, I simply transfer the Bitcoin from my wallet to your wallet. And once you receive that
on the computer.
On a computer, on a smartphone, there's many ways to do it, but we just have to agree on what one Bitcoin is worth for the both of us.
Okay, so in a case like that, it's possible it could be like one Bitcoin each, or it could be two or three.
Yeah, we can do as many Bitcoin as necessary to complete that $500,000 transaction. But the key point is that there is probably in existence today close to 100 different exchanges, and all of them have slightly different prices on what one Bitcoin is worth each. So it's really important for us to reach a conclusion, a decision, as to what you and I both agree one Bitcoin is worth at the moment of transaction.
All right, so what's happened at Mt. Gox is, and people are saying, where is my money? These people have obviously purchased Bitcoins that they thought were going to be safe with this organization. Now this organization has lost over 800,000 of these virtual Bitcoins, and these people are out of that money. But there was no actual cash exchanged, am I correct?
There was cash exchange. These people who bought Bitcoins using Gox, and I've used Gox in the past before. Okay. You would deposit money through your bank account to their bank account, and once that shows up on the balance on the internet, you just buy Bitcoin using whatever amount of money you put in. So these people actually gave them cash in a way, gave cash to Gox. Now Gox is unable to give them the product, which is Bitcoin, in return for that cash. Now,
the people who have lost this money or lost these Bitcoins, are they going to be able to recoup anything here or even sue Mt. Gox? Because my understanding is that you bypass banks. There is no actual currency out there like gold or whatever to back up these units. So when we come back after we take this break, let's find out more about the legality of me transferring my property to you and you buying me back on Bitcoin as to whether it even stand up in court, in a court of law, okay?
Okay.
And we'll talk about that with Mike Yeung. Just stand by as we continue here on CFAX 1070. Mr. Yeung is a SFU Arts and Social Science student who founded the Simon Fraser Bitcoin Club, and we're talking about this major bust today of an organization called Gox or Mt. Gox. Exchanging a accounting system is the root cause of the apparent sudden disappearance of almost 800,000 virtual Bitcoins. Back after the news headlines. Let's get back to our discussion. Speaking about money, let's talk about what Mr. Yeung, Mike Yeung, is SFU Arts and Social Science student who founded the Simon Fraser Bitcoin Club. He's joining us on the phone line tonight to talk more about what's happened with this Bitcoin organization in Tokyo called Mt. Gox, returning a blank page on Tuesday. A disappearance of over 740,000 Bitcoins that are missing. People have been lined up, as a matter of fact, talking to a guy, or a story on a man who has been down there since the 14th of February, who's lost literally he figures about $320,000. He says that he's a Bitcoin trader. Colin Burgess said that he has picketed the building since the 14th of February after flying in from London, hoping to get back $320,000. He's tied up in Bitcoins with Mt. Gox. He says, I've lost all my money, and he says that he's next to his placards asking Mt. Gox, are they bankrupt? It hasn't shaken my trust in Bitcoin, but it has shaken my trust in Bitcoin exchanges, and that's a very important point. All right, so let's get back to our discussion on this, Mike. The big question, of course, in all of this, has the Bitcoin bonanza basically overall gone?
I highly doubt it, John. There's a lot of goods and services. I mean, there's a lot of services and different merchants out there. They're looking into integrating Bitcoin into their payment system currently. And there's a lot of entrepreneurs that are in this space right now, so definitely it's not gone. And like you said, the issue now is how to secure the exchanges so that they don't let anything like what happened to Gox happen again to future customers.
But here's the problem. You and I talked before about this being like the stock market. You go and you buy stock, and you take your risks in stock and so on. But in most cases, not in all, but in most cases, most stock market stock that you buy has got a corporation or a company or a something that's coming off the end of a line somewhere where you've got at least some degree of security. However, on this particular issue, you bypass the banks, you bypass all that stuff, you trade on the Bitcoin market, and the Bitcoin market does not have any insurance, and certainly Mt. Gox is a proof of that.
Yeah, I totally agree. This is still a really young market, and there's a lot of volatility and a lot of risk involved for investors. Depending on which exchange you go to, you might face issues like you have with Mt. Gox. But I believe that all the other exchanges in existence now, they've learned quite a good lesson from what happened to Mt. Gox, so it's unlikely that anything of this scale will repeat itself again, especially with some of the up-and-coming Chinese exchanges and exchanges from the States like Coinbase. They're not going to allow this to happen to their businesses. All
right, now listen, here's something that you're going to have to be patient with me as I try to understand this. There is no doubt that right now that the whole question of Bitcoin as any kind of a financial security or an investment or whatever is taking a real major hit here. Okay, you would agree with that?
I agree with that.
Okay. How do you convince people to go out and buy Bitcoin after this has happened? I mean, we've talked to some people around this town and asked them about it. They said, "Are you kidding? I would never get involved again in this." They didn't have a lot of money involved, but they said, "I'm not going to get in this because there just is not the security bank in there and the insurance policy that's in there that's necessary. If my bank has a problem, I know that my money's going to be secured in there by the federal government up to X number of dollars. I guess about $100,000. Okay, but the point is this: that Bitcoin is so ethereal. It's out there in space basically, and it doesn't have anything that has a solid base on the floor. How do you convince people to go back into it after the Mt. Gox thing?
I would say two things. First of all, I would be really careful associating an exchange like Mt. Gox, compare that to a bank. They're not a bank. They're just an exchange.
Right.
So any Bitcoins that a person would ever buy on an online exchange should be transferred right away into your personal Bitcoin wallet that you created on your computer, on your phone. Now that is 100% safe once you transfer it over. So never keep any Bitcoins you buy on an internet exchange unless you're going to be trading them very, very soon. And secondly, this might be the lowest that Bitcoin will go for the foreseeable future. Right now, the crash down to its current rate of about $500 might be temporary in the next few weeks or few months. There might be news that will prop it up to $900 or over $1,000. So if you're still curious about Bitcoin, this is probably one of the best times to buy in.
Well, they tell us that if you look at those figures, they figure that that's down more than 50% on the price. It used to be at $1,200 per Bitcoin, but it's down to $470 to $550. But there's other companies that are involved in this. Tell me about things like Litecoin, Namecoin, and Ripple. What are they?
They're all cryptocurrencies or just virtual currencies that are based off of the concept of Bitcoin. For example, Litecoin is quite similar to Bitcoin. Namecoin is similar to Bitcoin, but it has some extra functions. And Ripple is kind of like Bitcoin, but in a lot of ways it's not. It's just another virtual currency. And these are just alternative currencies that people can get into if they don't want to put all their holdings in Bitcoin. So it's a way to diversify their wealth. Okay,
we know that Russia has effectively banned the Bitcoin currency, and in other jurisdictions, they say in this article I have in front of me that authorities are weighing whether to try to tame the marketplace through licenses or other mechanisms, but they say even if Mt. Gox or Mt. Gox doesn't drag Bitcoin down with it, there is fear that the exchange's demise will push officials to take an even more skeptical stance. Would you see any movement here in Canada to ban the Bitcoin market?
I don't think the Canadian government would right off ban Bitcoin. I mean, if the U.S. hasn't done it, I don't think the Canadian government would be worried. But what I would foresee in the next 6 months to a year is that the Canadian government will come up with really clear guidelines as to what Bitcoin actually is and how to regulate it and how to tax it. And I think this is actually a step in the right direction. Once they can tax it, once it's well regulated, once the exchanges are well regulated, then it gives Bitcoin a lot more legitimacy than how it looks today.
Well, just last month, I understand is that that the Bitcoin Foundation, one of the members, Vice Chairman Charlie Shrim, was arrested in New York's Kennedy Airport on charges of money laundering.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah, he was arrested. Yes.
Where do you see this going? As far as you're a guy that knows a lot about this. Where do you actually see it going, and how long do you think it's going to take for recovery?
I would say maybe this low that we're at will probably not last much longer than after springtime. So I think maybe in about April or May, there's going to be a lot of room for recovery, and in the long run, I think the thing that happened at Mt. Gox recently, that's just like a bump in the road. It's really nothing. I've said this before. I think Bitcoin is like a baby and learning how to walk, but you wouldn't count a baby out just because the first time it walked, it kind of fell on his knees.
What do you say to a guy like Colin Burgess from London who figures he's out $320,000 and he wants to get his money back?
I would say if he knew Bitcoin as well as he should have, or as well as I expect him to, he should have taken those Bitcoins out, a portion at a time out of Mt. Gox instead of leaving it on the exchange, because that's not a good move.
You said that's too much money to have involved.
Yeah, it's too much money to leave on the exchange. He should have withdrawn a lot of those Bitcoins into his personal wallet so that he can be sure that those coins are safe.
But he trusted it.
He trusted it, yes. But for a guy who has that much money tied into Mt. Gox, he must know a lot about the scene. And a lot of the people who are like traders, including myself, we never were totally trusting of Mt. Gox. I think very few people were.
Really?
Yeah.
So it doesn't matter how big you play, you really got to watch the organization, and it goes from there. So you're thinking this is not going to bury Bitcoin. All right, we'll watch this very closely. Tell what we'll do. We'll call you back in about maybe 2 to 3 months, and we'll see exactly where it is, and we'll watch. Now that you've really piqued my interest in this Bitcoin market, not that I'd get involved in it, but I will sure watch it and see where it's going. I thank you for your time.
Thanks a lot for having me.
Thanks, Mike. Mike Yeung, SFU Arts and Social Science student who founded the Simon Fraser Bitcoin Club. Bitcoin. It's not cash as such. That's another.